Okay, so welcome everybody. Good evening. Thank you for making it out to another webinar by the Georgia Haitian-American Chamber of Commerce. My name is Ronald Setut, or Wanal Setut, however you want to say it. And I am the current president of the Georgia Haitian-American Chamber of Commerce. Also founder of the Bell Initiative, which is a program that focuses on educating entrepreneurs and connecting them with resources. If you haven't already, make sure you follow the chamber on Facebook at GAHCCI, and I'll also drop this in the link below, in the chat below, so you'll find it. And then also on Instagram as well, to make sure you stay updated on a lot of the activities that we have coming up, the calendar this year, and very important information, all right? So I won't take too long with my introduction because the man of the hour is here, and I want to make sure we give him the floor so we can enlighten us. But today we have another great webinar, another learning session, as I like to call them. This year, we'll really be focusing on bringing more education to the members, to the community at large. And today we have one of my very good friends, colleagues, partners in crime on so many different levels, Dr. Edwin Magloire. And he will be talking to you about taking things beyond the logo. And this is something that he taught me a few years ago as far as what branding really looks like. And so I hope that you all pay attention. I hope that we all have good conversation today and make sure that we understand that our branding is very important, not just for ourselves, but our companies, and making sure we understand how we can actually utilize our brands and make it work for us. So Dr. Magloire, without further ado, thank you for coming on and doing this and sharing your knowledge and expertise with the world. Take it away, my friend.
All right. Thank you, Ronald. Thank you for the introduction, and thank you all for coming to this session. I'm going to start by saying, Ronald, some people are already writing me and telling me that they never got the Zoom link. Therefore, I know it's already on Facebook, but if you could, I don't know, type a comment and share directly on my page, etc., so people can see. So welcome everybody here. Let's deal with the people who are here. Again, we're gonna be talking about branding, and I have to say that during these last few years, the word brand and branding has become a lot more prevalent, and I believe the reason for that is because before there was this distance where all the branding decisions were being made in a conference room, and then all the decisions were being made, and then everything was applied to packaging and products, and then these products got to us years later or months later, and we did not have any type of interaction with the actual brands. Social media changed all that. When you create a page on Facebook and you create a page on Instagram, boom, you automatically have a brand, and all the brands who have a social media presence, you get to interact with them, tell them directly. So branding, the whole process of marketing and brand communication has become so much shorter. The cycle has become so much shorter. So now a lot more people are interested in that branding thing. What is branding? What is a brand, etc. So as I said, it's one of the words that is really commonly used nowadays, but it's also one of the most misunderstood ones, right? And one of the reluctancy and hesitation that I've come across a lot is people who are especially in the service area or consultants. They always tell us like, well, we don't need that branding thing. Branding is for consumer goods. It's for companies that have like long supply chains and etc. But we don't need branding. And in fact, branding is actually more valuable for people who are in retail, but as well as people who are in B2B, and especially for people who are in the service environment. So that's why I really wanted to make this presentation for the chamber, because I know the chamber has a lot of consultants, a lot of professionals, and not necessarily big businesses, just to let you know that yes, branding is something that you need, and I would definitely encourage you to consider branding activities. So what is a brand? We already, like, from the title of this presentation, we already said that, well, it's not the logo. It's not just your logo, right? So a brand is the perception that your target audience has of you. And every time you do branding activities, every time you do branding, what you're trying to do is you have a conscious and informed effort to create and manage that perception. In other words, you're trying to direct, to control how the audience sees you, how the audience sees your brand. Unfortunately, that's just one factor. Everything you say, everything you show is just one factor. But people's expectations are going to get into it. You delivering on your promises are going to get into it. Somebody's word of mouth is going to contribute into it. Your different type of associations. What did you do? Did you agree with that actress that said something? All of this comes and creates your brand. So as I said, the branding is just you trying to control it, but it's so elusive, and that's why it's kind of like a bit delicate. So some brands don't give any type of access to any. That's why they have brand managers. Only brand managers make decisions for the brand because it's so delicate. And as you can see now, there's this thing called cancel culture. Celebrities get canceled, but believe me, brands get canceled as well. So when do you have what we call brand market fit? Is when the way your audience perceive you matches the way you want your audience to perceive you. Then you have a brand market fit. But does that mean that you have good branding, though? Not necessarily. We will talk about what good branding is later, because I feel like there's a lot of content out there that wants to direct into what is good branding. But I want to touch upon certain points that are more strategic that allows you guys to understand where all this is supposed to come. So a brand really has nothing to do with a logo. It has nothing to do with a font. It has nothing to do with the colors on your website, the photography that you're using, etc. At the core of your brand is really an idea. Is an idea an association that you want to create in the brain of your target audience. Everything else is supposed to reinforce that idea. So in other words, you have your idea, and everything else in your brand, the name, the logo, the brochure, is something that you put around the idea, is how you wrap it up, and then you present it to the world. Why is branding important? And of course, what is the point of having good branding, right? And what does it do to the bottom line? I know as business owners, the most important part, right? Cash flow, bottom line. So what does it do really? Well, according to research, strong brands come in premium prices. And that's the difference between a commodity like water and how I would say that it's not just a need, it turns into a demand. We all need water to survive, but demand is different. We demand that certain brands of water give us this or that. Maybe it needs minerals, maybe it needs vitamin inside of it, etc. So there's different, maybe the taste. So the need is for commodities, but demand is what brands serve, right? So the simple test that you all can have right now is to know if you have a strong brand or not is, are you only able to earn commodity prices? When you mention your price, how do your customers react to it? Are they happy to pay it, or do they complain a bit, or do they stay away from you for like years and everything? So if you can only earn commodity prices, most likely that means that you have a weak brand. And as I said, if you need to answer to a need, you don't necessarily need branding. But if you want to answer to demand, meaning something that is specific to a segment of your customers, and most of the time I would advise that this is a high profit pool, because yes, you could target everyone if you wanted, but it really makes sense for you to, and that's not necessarily niching down. A lot of people confuse that with niching down, but it's just making sure that the customers that you're targeting are the customers bringing you more revenue to your company, right? So when you're in that situation, then you need branding. But I'll be honest, because branding is not a silver bullet. It's not it's not something that fixes everything. And I'm saying that as a brand builder, The real secret to competitive advantage, besides economies of scale, which I'm not even going to mention because I know most of you are professionals and small business owners, even sole proprietorships. Besides economies of scale, the greatest competitive advantage remain the ability to capture customers. So customer captivity. And branding is only one of many marketing assets. But branding is an asset, and it's actually one of the greatest assets that your company can leverage to create that kind of competitive advantage. So, branding is more effective under certain circumstances. If you have low supply, meaning let's say you're the only person working, or let's say you have a product but you can't even let's say you're creating bottles, you don't even produce 100 bottles per month, right? So you have low supply. And you also have low demand, meaning not a lot of people know you and etc., or your product is not that appealing, then you don't need to spend much in branding. If you also have low supply and high demand, because people are already asking for your product, even if you have low supply, you don't need to spend a lot in branding either. Now, if you have high supply and high demand, then you don't need branding either. The sweet spot when branding becomes almost an obligation, almost mandatory, is when you have high supply, meaning you have enough to fulfill, you have enough to supply your market, your target audience, but you have low demand. So you need to create that demand. You need to foster and nurture that demand. Then it makes sense for you to invest in branding. And that branding needs to not just be a logo, but it needs to be strategic branding, meaning you know what you're doing in order to capture those scarce customers, right? Now, people have the misconception that branding is supposed to be expensive. And I'm saying that as someone who sells branding, not necessarily. It does not have to cost an arm and a leg, but it does require a lot of time and a lot of thinking. So most of the time, it's not the actual logo, it's not the actual brochure, it's not the actual. It's more like spending the time to strategize, to figure out, to get everything on paper, to know exactly who am I going to target, how am I going to get them to pay attention to me, etc., etc. So it does require a lot of thinking, and that's why having a strategist on your team or at your disposition is one of the best things you can do for your branding, right? Now, regardless of your budget, there are myriads of ways that you can manage, protect, and nurture your brand. So I do not want any type of excuse as if I don't have the funds. Because as I said, a brand and the activities of branding are not necessarily something tangible. At the core of it is an idea. So everything that you do that can communicate that idea, that can create that association, is branding. And most of it is free. So let's go back to what is a good brand then. How do I make sure that I have a good brand? Now, I would like to have some kind of interaction. Does anybody here want to tell me what they think is a good brand? Just unmute and start talking. This is a democracy.
Coca-Cola.
That's a good brand, but why do you think is a good brand?
Been around, easily recognized, one of the most recognizable brands on the planet.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So recognition, right? That's your criteria. Like people can recognize it easily. What else? So just to clarify, I'm not asking for brand names. I'm asking for what are the criteria? What makes a brand a good brand? So now we already have one answer, easily recognizable. What else?
Classifies it as a premium product.
Okay, that's a good answer. Anyone else?
Memorable.
Mm-hmm. Is it that's kind of like close to recognizable?
Is it that it's short, like the words are short, it's not long, Like it's easy to remember because it's just straight to the point. I don't know.
That's the name of the company. So and that's why we really wanted to make the difference between branding and brand. So a brand is the perception, remember? So when you say it's short, that's a great characteristic of a brand name. A brand name is supposed to be very short and easily like, like you just get it. I never advise using more than 2 syllables. So yeah, that's a good answer. I'm gonna take a last one and then we're gonna continue.
Okay. Can I say that a brand helps people to identify the product or the company? It's just like a birth paper of the company.
Okay,
Kind
so
of.
identity, it's something that identifies. That's a good answer as well.
What about tell a story?
I love this one. Tells a story. Tells a story. Okay, so we're gonna stop there, and I'm gonna put everything that was said under one umbrella. And I can say that everything that was said here, the umbrella has to do with attributes. It has to do. Remember, I told you the brand is an idea, and then everything else is a packaging. Is how you wrap it up to present it to the world. So the name being short, the logo being recognizable, etc. Most of this is just the wrapping. And the things the other umbrella that I could create that have to really to do with the core is that it tells a story. That's a very good answer. The fact that it electrifies a product, that's also something. So there's a story being told here. So a good brand is a brand that makes the buyer feel good. A good brand is a brand that makes the buyer feel good about his or her purchase. And there are multiple ways of creating that feeling, right? So there's this virtuous cycle of activities and reactions. So the brand acts and the target audience reacts. First of all, the brand learns. And this is what a lot of people think. Okay, market research. Not necessarily. There are many ways that a brand can learn. The brand learns and I always say that the most important job of an entrepreneur is to get inside the head of their target audience. The brand learns what makes the person feel good. And that's a customer centric approach instead of a product centric approach. In the product centric approach, the brand focuses on supply. I'm going to create that product and then I'm going to figure out who's going to buy it. But the correct way of doing it is the brand learns first what makes you feel good as a customer, right? And because the brand knows, then the brand positions itself. Okay, I know exactly what they like. I know what their colors. I know what they're struggling with. I know their pain points. I know, like, at that period of the year, the stress is really like, so you know the person like the back of your hand, and then you position yourself. You create this image that we're the solution for you. And it's not just a facade, it's for real because you have the data, right? What happens to the customer, because the brand positions itself as the solution, they can give all the right signals that we are the solution for you. Then the person making the purchase, it's easier for them to do that. So the brand helps you make the choice. Therefore, the customer feels helped. So that's already 2 feels. The brand learns, the customer feels good. The brand positions itself, the customer feels helped. And then lastly, because the brand knows that, okay, this is working, I need to promote myself and I need to nurture the relationship that I created with this customer. And what happens at the end of the day, you feel good because you chose this brand. Whereas initially you felt good because your problem was solved, but now you feel like, whoa, this brand really gets me, right? And then you feel good about choosing that brand. And that's where fan identity comes from, but that's for another talk. So the good brand is a brand with an emotional charge. And that's why I love the intro about telling a story. And I always say that, like in my close circle, I always say we don't speak English or Creole or French. We speak story. That's the language of humanity. So every brand that can tell a story and make someone feel good, that's a good brand. Now my question for you: how many millions of dollars do you need to write a good story to make someone feel good? Not a lot, right? So there are ways that are how do I say that are packaging centric, like how you package the idea, and that's where you focus on making sure the logo is right and etc. But there are other ways that that's just rely on interactions, and this is where we're gonna go. So how do we create that great brand, right? So as I said before, what you're trying to do is create a perception. So you're trying to satisfy the demand. And one mistake we make is that we believe the person only has physical demands. I'm selling Coke or I'm selling water, so I believe the person who is no longer thirsty, I have done my job. Unfortunately, there wouldn't be, if that was the case, there would be no car brands. There would be only one car brand. Like as long as it can take me from A to B, then it's fine. But that's not, I mean, there's so many brands, right? And on the spectrum, we have the Lada, the Range Rover, the RAV4, and then you start moving like the BMW, and then you keep moving the Mercedes, and then you start going into the Lamborghinis and Ferraris. So there's a spectrum, right? And I can guarantee you that if it was just the physical demand, it would be from A to, like no one would ever buy a Lamborghini. But there are other type of demands. Demand mean it's not just a need. I want to feel this. I want to have this experience. I want to feel joy. I want to have status and etc. So this is what brands answer to. And just as a reminder, if you're just handling the need, then you're doing some commodity and you're not doing branding. Branding is here to answer to demand. And how do you know demand? By knowing your customer, by learning first, right? So there's that human urge to connect to something. And that's why Apple people don't buy Windows computers. And that's why Microsoft computers don't buy Apple. Like, and that's why Android users, there's a war going on between Android and Apple and iOS. And that's why there's a war going on between Marvel fans and DC fans, 50 Cent fans and the game fans, etc. So Kim and Kanye at this point, it's really a matter of creating that connection. What am I attached to? So how do you create that brand? By fostering those positive interactions. So it's as simple as that. The act of creating positive customer interactions. In marketing, we call it moments of truth. There are different moments of truth for brands, but it's just the gist of it is just making sure that all the interactions reinforce that core idea that you created from the beginning, right? So the first stop, as a lot of y'all mentioned, is the name of the company. How does it sound? Does it sound aggressive? Does it sound like friendly? Does it sound welcoming? Is it easy to pronounce? How does it roll off my tongue, etc.? And just like probably not all of you, but a lot of people judge other people just on their names. Like when I hear your name, I know if I'm gonna have a good relationship with you or not. And even if you don't notice that, but there's something subconscious that happens. And that's why when branding companies, like the real ones, are crafting names, they focus a lot on how is that name going to sound in terms of positioning. Is it going to sound like a sport brand, an athletic brand, like dynamic brand? So all of this is decided and calculated, and they test the names as well. Never trust your marketer, never trust your designer, never trust yourself. Test the name that you come up with. And so like the name is really like the name and the logo. I consider the name and the logo as the two really pillars of your brand. And because the logo is probably going to be influenced by the name, I would say the name is even more important. So it's really important to pay attention to the name. A lot of people focus on a lot of people focus on I'm just gonna give it my name, right? Because it's my company, it was my idea. I'm just gonna put my name right in there. And yes, we have a lot of examples of companies who are like, who, are namesakes. Like even Goodyear was someone. There was actually someone called Mr. Goodyear. So it happens that these brands become successful, but it requires so much time, right, and so much effort. But I would not advise with the name thing, especially in 2022 when like everybody can create a name just by creating an Instagram account. And also on the legal side of things as well, you most likely need a name that can be yours, that can be proprietary, that you're not gonna have any dispute because someone else thought about it or someone else was had the same name, etc. So I really advise against necessarily using the name. But it really, I like the, I don't remember who said it, but when she said it needs to be short. Facebook, right? Like it's Twitter, Apple. It's not like the company of, and most of the companies who didn't follow this rule, who created long names, have to contract, right? After a certain amount of time. Even 3M, which is very popular here, was actually the Minnesota manufacturing. Like it's actually 3M, and it was so long they were like, okay, right, 3M, right? And the problem with that is that it loses meaning because 3M. So hopefully, like they had enough cash, they had enough years to build a name. But right now, if 3M was to come out like in 2022, it would be so hard for them to make a name for themselves, right? So I would definitely advise against the name and keeping it short. So keep it short. Um, Make sure that it's really hard to be misspelled or mispronounced. So in other words, make it easy. If a 4-year-old can say it, or 3, depending on how smart your kid is, then it's a good brand name, right? Make it unique as well, because as I said, you're making it unique for 2 reasons. For marketing reasons, because if your name sounds just like a brand name that already exists, regardless of their popularity, even if it's just around your block or if it's a global brand, every time you market with that name, you're actually marketing another company's brand. So make sure that every time someone mentions your name, they know it's you. And there's a trap in there, especially for my Asian people, where we don't care what brand name it is. It's just a Fushide. We don't care what brand name it is. It's just a Delco, right? We don't care what brand name it is. It's just a Telmos. And what we may think that's a good thing, but it's not, because there's no equity. Imagine Telmos did all this marketing. I mean, like they did so much to be present. Maybe they were first to market. Maybe they made sure that, no other thermos brand is gonna be in Haiti. We want that market cornered. But now when someone goes and be like, I'd like to buy a Telmos, and then they just give them any type of brand, so that's a waste of marketing money. So make sure that your brand name is not gonna become generic. So a lot of people think, yeah, generic is good because I became synonymous with the whole industry. Like Telmos became synonymous with all the whole cooler industry in Haiti. That's a good thing, but no, that's not, because your brand is being diluted, right? So make sure you don't fall into the generic trap, right? Um, and of course, make it culturally relevant, and I think that's very important, especially for we're kind of like all binational, right? I don't care how many years. I don't care if you were born in the U.S. or in France or wherever you are. I think I have someone in Germany here. You're Haitian. You're binational. So culturally relevant means, do I want to call my business a name that is gonna offend people where I'm at? And we know this is kind of like rare, but certain words mean certain things in certain cultures. And I'm not even going to go with the lakai, the pam, and the like. I don't know. You have the right to rep your culture, but it's not even the repping your culture. It's more, and some words becomes like very ingrained. So like, don't get me wrong. I'm not saying don't use Creole words, for example. I'm saying, for example, there was Chrysler, a car manufacturer, who released that. It was a nice model. In Mexico, the model was Nova, which is a very nice car. But because Nova means no go, it didn't do well in Mexico. They like, that's something that they realized far too late. They lost a lot of money because they didn't think about, oh my God, cultural relevancy. So when I mention cultural relevancy, make sure that your brand name is not a curse word in another culture. So it's in that way. I'm not saying do not represent your Caribbean heritage or your Creole heritage. So pay attention to that. And make it a promise or make it tell a story, right? And again, I'm in love with that answer. I'm always gonna remember it. Make the name tell a story. And I still remember. I'm probably shameless plug, when I was choosing brand Pill. It tells the story. It's gonna heal your brand. So it's not just something generic. That it's not just a generic name, right? And if you can't make it tell a story, if you can't make it a promise, and you're just choosing the words, like, because some brand names that you're going to create, depending on your industry, it has to be a word that doesn't exist at all. You're creating the word. Like, even like my favorite ice cream brand, Haagen-Dazs, it doesn't mean anything. That was completely made up, right? It doesn't mean anything, but the way it's pronounced has to do with ice in the Scandinavian area. Like, so make sure, even if the word you crafted doesn't mean anything, make sure that it there's a, how do I say that? There's a connotation, there's an association anyway that it does with your industry, right? Twitter, like the way they spelt it, that doesn't exist, but association. Yeah, birds chirping, sending messages from far away, and etc. So make sure that you can create that kind. Hello.
We hear you now.
Okay, no problem. I have no idea where I got cut off, so I'm just gonna keep going. So I remember I was focusing on the name, making sure that the name means something, right? Making sure that it it doesn't offend culturally, but at the same time, if you can get it to to tell a story or be a promise, make sure that the association, the connotation that it creates inside your customer's brain is a positive one. And remember, positive customer interactions. That's the formula to create good brands, right? And as I said before, test it. Test the name. Test the name. It doesn't cost you anything to test the name. Ask your friends. Don't give them any details. Don't tell them anything about what you want to do. Um, just the name. What do you think when you hear? Can you send me a voice note pronouncing that word, etc.? And that's how you test, right? And of course, you can do more hands-on. I would say more like market research type of tests that are like specific. But you can also start, because I'm always thinking advice on a budget. But of course, there are professional ways, strategic ways of actually doing the test names, focus groups, and also comparisons. And just to give you like by mentioning comparisons, just to give you an example of what a brand can do, there was this exercise. They just took a group of men, gave them beers with brand names. Coors, Miller Lite, Budweiser. I don't think Prestige was in it, but it was just beer with brand names. And then they told them, so give us an idea of your perception of the taste. Nothing else, just taste. And then the results were in a certain way, right? Very sporadic, very different, right? And then they gave the same guys the same beer, but they didn't tell them that one was Budweiser, that one was Miller Lite, that one was Heineken, etc. It was just beer. And they all said the taste was the same, except that one guy who said, like, of course, Guinness is Guinness. Guinness doesn't taste like the other beers. So the perception, even of the taste, is being influenced by the brand, meaning the emotional connection the guy has for that brand. So that's just a tidbit to give you, just because I know there are a lot of branding like non-believers, like I don't believe this thing is going to do anything, and you probably need $1 million to do it anyway. But I'm just giving you an idea of the power of creating that association. And the sooner you start, the better. And as I said before, it's easy to start. You don't need $1 million for that. So the close second to the name is, of course, the logo, as you guys mentioned. The logo is supposed to be memorable, as Ronald said. It's supposed to, but the main thing that the logo is supposed to be is well constructed, right? That's the table stakes. Is it well constructed? And how do I say that? Your customer can see if it's well constructed or not, whether subconsciously or not. So that's the first thing, meaning get a professional designer. Don't do it yourself, regardless of what is charges, but at least make sure that is well constructed. And then we can focus on the deep propositions right now. Like what is a good logo at the end of the day? A good logo captures attention. It attracts attention. You want to, in other words, it doesn't say everything. You stop on it, like what's there? What's there? Oh, that was it. There's it. It makes you live with it. It makes you spend time with it. That's the first thing, right? The second thing is it triggers a response. Okay, I've seen it now. I don't like it, or I like it, or it reminds me of. Regardless of the response, hopefully it's positive. Regardless of response, it's better to have a negative response than no response. And this is very important because a lot of the things that I fight is people going on the internet, Googling, businesses that are similar to theirs and just taking a logo that already exists and just take it. Like that is the definition of generic. That is the definition of, oh, I'm selling shoes. Okay, so I'm just gonna Google shoe logos, and then yeah, that looks nice, and then you take it. It's not. It's just identifying you. It's just saying your name, but the name doesn't capture someone, right? So there are boring names. I'm sorry, there are boring names, and there are names that sound great. There are names that trigger emotion. Well, that's the same thing with the logo. You're not just trying to say that, yes, I'm in the shoe industry. You want to be like that. You want to communicate something. Maybe your shoes are innovative. Maybe your shoes are like only for women. Maybe your shoes are very smooth. Maybe your shoes are medical shoes, orthopedic shoes. So all of this needs, like, you need to say more than I'm in this industry, right? And I'm just going to give you another example. I'm a branding agency, therefore I'm going to use a lot of colors just to let people know that, yeah, I'm creative and stuff, right? So there's a lot of cliches that are being used in logos when in fact the logo is supposed to be unique and trigger that response. Great question, Engel. How do we know if our brand or logo are boring? Yeah, you typically, I'm trying to be unbiased. Typically, you could just call me and send that logo to me, and I will gladly rip your logo apart if need be, or I will, tell you this is how you can improve it, and etc. But you will know that your logo is boring if nobody ever makes one comment about it. And that's why I said it's supposed to trigger a response, attract first, and then trigger a response. If no one ever says you have a cool logo, or even if it's just curiosity, that is one of the best responses you could get. What does your logo mean? What is your logo? So a lot of people think, oh, people are not going to get that. That's a good thing. That's a very good thing. And there's a fine line between they're not understanding it right away and they're not understanding it at all. And a lot of companies go with, I don't want them to understand it at all, which is another type of logo that people leverage, like abstract logos. Abstract logos are not supposed to mean anything. It's supposed to just attract attention and trigger a response. Logitech logo doesn't mean anything. And even the designer cannot tell you what it means because it's supposed to be abstract. Some other logos have very concise, deep propositions and etc. They mean a lot of things, right? That's another good question. Um, do you take a different approach for companies selling services, such as platforms as a service? Yes, I mean, I was gonna go there. Like the characteristic of the logos, it's supposed to match your industry. And I think one of the best examples of that is packaging design. I know that's not logo, but that's packaging design. You will absolutely not. And if you find one, please send it to me so I can be amazed and wow. You will not find a mustard packaging that is not yellow mustard. It's just table stakes in that industry. If you have a mustard brand, the packaging needs to be that yellow mustard packaging. And as I said, you get some people, some brands can decide, no, I want to go against the grain and go against the industry and do something creative. And I've seen some of them, but I haven't seen big brands do that, right? So it's the same thing for your logo. You do not want to be for women and have a bold, like really strong logo. You do not want to be a corporate bank or any type of corporate serious company and have the a font that is a script, right? Because that's more artistic, that's more open, that's more friendly, and etc. So there are, I say, languages that you have to study in design school that let you know which font communicate which emotions, which colors, and
Yeah.
I was, yeah. Someone wants to say something. Go ahead.
I had something to say. This is
Mm-hmm.
Samara. I have a question. Once a business has been established,
Mm-hmm.
things are working out, but you may want to change the look of your business, or you may want to change your logo. Do you advise that?
If it's just you wanting to change it, no. You have to have an actual strategic reason to do a rebrand. Because how do I say that? It's not really about preference and even colors. And I was
Mm-hmm.
gonna go to colors. Some colors stimulate appetite. Some colors make people want to eat. Therefore, a fast food is going to use that color. It's the owner of the fast food chain is not gonna say, I always like blue. Therefore, I'm gonna make my business blue. So that's really what I really wanted to convey is that there's a strategic thinking that needs to happen. The knowing your customer first, knowing exactly what makes them feel good, and then giving them just that. It's like I have this gift for you, but I know your favorite gift wrapper is blue and etc. Therefore, I'm gonna make it blue because I know you're gonna appreciate it. So my question for you, Samara, why do you feel you want to change it?
I think because I've noticed a lot of people with kind of similar logos, you
Ah,
know, and
yeah,
stuff. So it's more like,
that's a good reason. That's a very
yeah,
good reason because logos are supposed to differentiate. That's the
exactly.
main point of branding. And unfortunately, in my line of work, I come across a lot of entrepreneurs. I want a logo just like that brand. And I'm like, that's not how branding works because it's supposed to be the total opposite. And uh, even talking to designers, a lot of designers, oh, I'm going to check the trends. Yes, you're supposed to check the trends. I check the trends every day. But you look at the trends, you buy the reports to see what you're not supposed to do. You're not supposed to follow the trends. Oh, this type of logos are trendy. Let me do one. No, it's the opposite. It's really about creating something unique. The same way all of us are very unique at our DNA. And there is this thing called the brand DNA. I do a lot of brand strategy. Actually, brand strategy is supposed to come before brand implementation. So the strategy is at the core of it is finding that uniqueness. What makes you unique? And how do you create that perfect match for your audience? And once you have that perfect match, then you know what to do. It's no longer a guessing game. I know exactly that I need to use blue because I know the blue is what's gonna convey the credibility that I know my customer is looking for. So all of this is strategic, scientific a little, but that's a very good reason to want to change because no, you're not supposed to look like other brands.
Thank you.
Yeah. So yeah, so color, the choice of color, just the choice of fonts, like they convey emotions and they convey responses, specific responses. And as I was saying, curiosity is a very good response to have. What the hell does your logo mean? I don't get it. Oh, and that's one of the reasons why people are still like years later, like decades later, people are still infatuated with the FedEx logo. At first, nobody liked it, but they noticed the arrow inside of it. What? There's an arrow inside of it? Like it was hidden, like all like, oh man, I love it. So, and another cliche, some entrepreneurs come to me, yeah, can you put an arrow inside of it somewhere so that no, that's FedEx thing. If you do that, people are just gonna say you're just trying to be like FedEx. I want you to be like you. You need to be the next FedEx. Is there something behind someone that chooses a fruit as its logo like Apple? Yeah, that's what China. That's what that communicates is that your product comes from China. That's what it communicates is that your product is from Boca Cathedral in Port-au-Prince because you're trying to copy something that already exists. You're trying to get a bootleg version of it, but you're not authentic. You have no ethics, no morals. You're comfortable ripping off things and etc. That's what it is. So, and keep in mind everything that you do, and I'm gonna get there like in the presentation. Everything that you do is branding, and that's why I said beyond the logo. You can claim that you're ethical, moral, and etc. But if you, in a Facebook comment, you answer in a way that shows that actually, no, you have a lot of bias, that's branding as well. And that, like I said, it's positive customer interaction. That negative interaction is gonna have an effect on your brand, regardless of your logo. Your logo could have been designed by I don't know, by me. And your logo could have been, I don't know, maybe you bought it like $100,000, right? But at the end of the day, everything that you do is branding. And your brand promise needs to match your actions. So it's really, 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 really important that you understand that your branding has nothing to do with how you look. How you look is how you package the idea. But everything else, the way you dress. And another question that I get a lot is, well, I see a lot of people, a lot of entrepreneurs associating the brand with themselves. Me, I would rather stay in the back, play like just do my thing. I don't really focus on that personal branding thing. I put the brand up front and I stay in the back. I play the back. Well, you can like, that's an easy exercise to do. Go on Twitter, like try to like Twitter, like find the account of Apple, and then find the account of Tim Cook, and you're gonna see that Tim Cook has double. Tim Cook has 12 million followers. Apple has 6 million followers. People, they know the brand is Apple, but they want to see who's the front man. They follow the front man. Everybody knows Virgin. Virgin has a lot of followers on Twitter, but Richard has a lot more. So when you say, no, I'm just going to let the brand do all the work, and you don't put yourself in front of the brand. Every brand needs a front man. And I don't mean an ambassador or an influencer that you're going to pay that's going to be inauthentic. I mean the person, and I have to be, I can't be biased. It doesn't have to be the actual founder. It doesn't have to be the actual CEO. Some brands just have, a face. That person is a face. So if you're introverted, you don't have charisma and etc., while you're working on getting it, you can choose someone else to be the face of your company. But at the end of the day, people buy from people, right? Even B2B, like, oh no, it's B2B, business to business. Therefore, I don't need to. It's a phone call. One person is reading your email. One person is answering your phone call. So it's human first. People, like there's a procurement department, but it's people in it. It's not a robot or artificial intelligence making the decision. Therefore, there is bias, whether you like it or not. And I say that often. Before people buy Brand Pill, they buy Edwin. And I'm not saying my brain is gonna remain like that forever, but for now that's what it is, and that's part of the strategy. And you need to understand that, okay, I cannot at certain stages, especially if you're a professional and especially if you're a consultant, you cannot separate your brand from you. On the contrary, the brand most of the time is built around your expertise, right? So this is very important. Other type of moments of truths, other type of positive customer interactions, slogans, and this is a area where I see a lot of, yeah. So slogans are not supposed to be forever. Slogans are supposed to be for a certain period of time. Same as branding in general, actually. And when I say branding, it doesn't necessarily have to do with the logo. Sometimes the logo stays the same, but the different assets, graphic elements change. Sometimes the logo changes, etc. And I'm just going to give you an example. There was this shoe brand. Yeah, they had a very generic logo. It was just Eon Shoes. Like very nice logo, but just a typeface, just a word mark. Eon Shoes. But when they doing the strategy, when they learning what the customer wants, who is the customer, etc., they realize that no, like only women buy our stuff. So our branding needs to match that. And that's also one thing that I wanted to tell Tamara. Like just because you start you see other brands looking like your logo is not reason enough. Do people go to these companies instead of yours? The people who come to you, why do they come? Does the logo attract them, etc.? So you need to ask yourself a lot of questions. That's why I said branding requires a lot of thinking before you can make a decision.
I did, and actually, it was mistaken for another company.
Oh, no. Change. You don't want to do that. Like the money that you're spending on your marketing, the effort that you put in your service, and now someone else is benefited from that. No, you need something that is specific. But now, quick question though. If you had created your branding first
Mm-hmm.
and it was trademarked, and that's the beauty of the law. In order for it to be trademarked, it needs to not be generic. If it's generic, just like names, it's hard to register a brand name that is just a cassette or something that is just a noun that you can find in the dictionary. Like they will tell you, no, you cannot own that word, sir. Even though certain brands get away with it, some big brands even get away with buying colors. I'm looking at you, Cadbury, but I'm just saying that most of the time, if your logo is not generic, then it can be trademarked. And if it's trademarked, then it's protected. Protected means, yes, you can copy, and some brands do that. Some brands like send cease and desist letters as soon as they realize that it's a copy. Some brands wait. I'm just going to wait until you have a lot of money, and then I will start sending you cease and desist letters. So it depends on your strategy. But yes, if you notice that your brand is being mistaken for another, then by any means necessary, if you don't feel it's proprietary enough, it's effective enough, then it's a very good excuse to go into that rebrand process. Definitely. Yeah. So as I was, yeah, go ahead. No, go ahead.
So I like what you just mentioned because it makes me curious, and I'm sure we've all seen this before, where you'll have a big name come out, big brand, right, and then another company will come behind it and name themselves very closely to that brand. Let's say, for example, you might have like Adidas, and then somebody will come and say, "Well, we're Badidas with the B." Is that a branding strategy that's you would advise? Because I've seen it before, like many times. So I'm just curious.
Yeah, we've seen it in Coming to America. I was like, no, they're McDonald's. I'm like, so, uh, well, to me, it's just funny because what it does is you're you think you're spending for branding, but what you're doing is just becoming a commodity. And the message that you're sending is, I absolutely have zero like.
Hey, is everyone there? Or is that just my internet?
Oh, we're still here.
Okay, so it might just be Edwin. Okay. Let's give him a second to come back on.
Great topic on.
Thank you. Thank you.
Hey,
There
I'm
you go.
back. I was switching Wi-Fi and giving you time to have a break because I know you guys have been here for a long time. I
Thank
hope
you. Thank you.
the break was yeah. So yeah, so it depends. It really depends. If you just you want to play and you're just a very very small business and you have absolutely zero ambition, then by all means. But at the end of the day, if you start making money, that company is going to come after you. And most of the time, they hit hard, like meaning they hit so hard that it might happen that you cannot recover from it, because sometimes they ask for compensation because you know the same way. Brand Pill cannot do a marketing campaign with a picture of I can't take a photograph of a model and not have them sign that, well, you get to use my picture for 1 year, etc. Is the same thing. You've been using our image to promote your album. I think that happened to Justin Bieber the other day, and they had to go back and imagine pressing thousands, millions of albums, and then you have to go back and redesign the whole thing because, oh my God, that font, that logo for the album, actually some another band was using it. So small players, very small players, always tend to not put enough emphasis or pay enough attention to these things. They think it's kind of like it's just a joke. I just need a logo, right? I mean, I have it. It's just on my checklist. In order for me to be in business, I need to have a logo. But it's a little bit more complicated than that. And my advice is it's an asset. Branding is an asset. And the difference between an asset and a liability, I know you guys know it, is that it can be leveraged to create more. It's an investment. So why would I have a generic logo, a logo that doesn't say anything, a logo that doesn't tell a story, a logo that doesn't have any type of that doesn't cause any type of response, a logo that is not memorable, a logo that does not communicate my value proposition, the personality of a brand, because brands have, that's why they call it brand identity. Brands have personalities as well. And the simple example I could say is banks are very formal, whereas other company you can see that other companies are a bit more friendly and etc. So the beauty of Instagram and Facebook is that you get to live branding. Whereas before it was just, oh, you see it on a billboard, you see it on the packaging, but right now you can really see, like you see how that brand communicates is very different from how that other brand communicates, and etc. So all of these things are assets. Flow was an asset. The gecko from Geico is an asset. It's more popular than the logo. The gecko from Geico is a lot more popular than the logo, and people think, no, only the logo and the name matters. No, everything that you create is an asset that can be used to leverage positive interaction, and that's what branding is. So, in other words, even before you had the logo, even before you had chosen the name of the company, and even when you're not inside your office, when you're at, I don't know, Commerce Works and etc., you are your brand. You are your brand. The way you talk, the way you showcase your expertise. Are you nice? And which brings us to, if we're talking about positive interactions, of course, customer service is a big, I mean, customer service is probably like 99% of branding. How do you talk to your customers? How do you, like, when you have a complaint, how do you react to that? Do you take it personally? Do you act like, well, this is it and that's what it is? Or are you fulfilling your brand promise, which is help? Business is all about supply and demand. So you're bringing a supply to a demand. So in other words, you're helping someone at the end of the day. So if your mission is to help and not necessarily to make money, then you are going to be nice in every interaction that you have. And a thing that I always tell my entrepreneurs: give more than you promised, and that's how you really create that positive interaction. Promise something and deliver more, right?
So let me,
So yeah, go ahead, Ron.
so let me ask you this, just to kind of maybe bring some things roundabout for everybody in terms of what that looks like when it comes to branding, right? So, and this is a conversation we've had years ago when you were trying to school me, and we fought back and forth about what branding was, and I'm like, no, the logo this and that, and logo that. But if you were to maybe give a list of items, maybe, and I know you said it's everything, it could be a long list, but let's take somebody with a business right now. For example, quite a few people here have a business or they have a project that they're working on. Outside of the logo, what would be some key things we would take away right now to take a look at our brand and say, and have a good assessment on it? Is it the logo? Should we be looking at the colors? Are we looking at the messaging? What would be like maybe 5 things that we should look at right now to assess our personal brand?
Okay. I mean, I said okay, but then you said personal brand, which is very
okay.
different.
Well, I'm sorry, not personal brand. When I say personal, I mean our brand is our business. Whoever's on this call, it could be their personal or their business, whatever brand they're concerned about.
I see what you mean. So it's actually a question. It's actually a question. You ask yourself, first of all, the image that I want to convey, and that's why I said it's going to there's going to be some subjectivity, because there are people with very bad branding was very comfortable and very fond of their branding, right? And vice versa. There are people with good branding who want more, like, no, I want to do this, etc. So it's there's some level of subjectivity in it, but it starts by asking yourself the image that I want to convey, meaning my positioning. And just to give you a little bit more clarity in positioning, is how you want people to perceive your brand. Do I want to be perceived as something creative, artistic, or do I want to be perceived as something strategic and scientific? That's just an example. I'm just going to use Brand Pill. Brand Pill uses a lot of chess pieces in all the communication that we have. And people are always asking, do you play chess? Yes, I play chess. But the brand itself has nothing to do with chess. It's because chess represents strategy. And our main thing is really strategy, because at the end of the day, you could have the best designer in the world. If he doesn't know what to design, you're not necessarily getting what you're supposed to be getting for your money. So everything starts with strategy. How am I, like, yes, that logo looks good, but how is it working for my brand? Is it attracting the people that I want it to attract? And that's what positioning is about. So I want to position myself as someone who's more strategic than creative. Therefore, I put my strategy first. And then you can check out the things that I do creatively, and you're going to be like, yeah, they're actually good. Yeah, but a lot of people can do the good, right? But it's really about a matter of, why did you choose to do that? Why did you choose to another answer, another example for your question? Why do I put my logo on my face everywhere? On my Instagram, on my LinkedIn, on my Facebook, you can literally have my logo is on my profile picture. And a lot of people are saying, like, are you sure you want to create that association? It's a choice. It's a strategic choice. It's not because I like it. So it's the same thing. So you assess your positioning. Am I seen the way I want to be seen? Am I seen as a generic brand that you know, I can't even negotiate with you. I tell you my price and you're like, yeah, I'm just gonna go elsewhere. Or I tell you like my price and you're like, someone did for me cheaper. Exactly. So, or I can command that power. People actually come to you and be like, look, I have this specific project that I'm working on and I want you. I'm like, yeah, but I don't have time. Oh, when are you going to be available? Around June. I'll wait. That's how you know you have good branding. That's how you know, like, oh my God, the positioning that I want to go for is there. So vice versa. Maybe you don't want to look that elitist. Maybe you want to look like, yeah, I'm available all the time, everywhere. Then are you using the elements that showcase that friendliness, that accessibility? How do you respond to your DMs? Do you ever respond to your DMs and etc.? So it's really, the first question is, how am I seen, right? And then like I think I can also go to into Curtis, who asked, how do I know if my logo is boring? Ask ask around. And I'm a student of the lean methodology. The way, when you use the lean methodology, the way you build your company is brick by brick. And every brick you put, you measure. Every brick you put, you test. So you don't test with yourself, you test with your target audience. I like blue. I really like blue. So I'm gonna create a blue logo and then I'm gonna test it with my target audience. And they're like, no, I like red. I'm sorry. This is where you remove that brick and you choose red as your logo, as your color. So there's a lack of personality a bit, but as I said, if you're creating something for people, then you have to do that, right? So, and again, when you're asking this type, when you're doing customer discovery, when you're doing this type of exercises, you don't want to ask leading questions. Don't say, do you like my logo? Nobody's going to tell you no. Or don't ask questions that have closed answers like yes, no. No, you really want to pick someone's brain. Therefore, you ask open questions. Would you? How would you? Would you say? Etc. What do you think? Then the person can write a full dissertation or just 2 paragraphs, but at least you can get, that's how you can get insight. You don't want to, don't be attached to these things. These things change all the time. And if you go in the history of all the brands that you have currently, they've changed their logos thousands of times. And there was no attachment. If they kept the same concept, this is called brand equity, is because that concept like gained like so much appeal, so much, like it created so much positive interactions that they're like, no, the people are not going to be happy. Tropicana, for example, they were like, hey, let's just remove that big orange thing with the straw in it and let's make it a little bit more modern and etc. And the sales dropped because that's what the people are associate the brand with. That's what they like. So the sales dropped immediately and they have to go back to their packaging. So some things you change, some things you don't, because like it or not, it creates equity with time. So you ask around. That's how you know. And but of course, the quickest way is to ask a professional. But the real professional is not gonna tell you it's a good logo, it's a bad logo, it's boring, it's not boring. It's gonna tell you how do your customers react to it, right? And it's easy to test. Like print out some shirts with your logo on it, print out some stickers, and like just lay them on the counter if you have a physical store and see how many people ask like, can I have one of these shirts, right? You have a cool logo when people want to put it everywhere, in the car, in their like backpacks, etc. Like, so that's one way, and that's another talk. But fan identity is a concept that is new to me, I have to say, but I'm so amazed by it. I'm probably going to write a book about fan identity. Is how do you use, or how do you create a brand that people are going to really have that like magnetic attraction to, and they want to have it everywhere. They become like almost fanatics. So instead of a brand identity, like we're working on creating fan identities. So other questions, if you have other questions, but in the meantime, I'm thinking as well as other ways that you can gauge your logo. But like, it's really response though. It's really response. It's really response because it's hard for you to test memorability unless you do a big market research, a big survey. So that costs money, and we're trying to save money. So but the main way is that there are tests that we do, like awareness. You can test all these things. You can test brand awareness. You can test gut reaction to your logo, and etc. There are strategic tools that allow you to do that, or not necessarily you, but a firm, an agency, or brand building agency, or brand management agency. But typically, what is the closest thing what's at your disposal is customer discovery, asking questions, interviews, surveys, right? And yeah, so it's just knowing how to do that and gauge the like, is it attractive? Is it does it cause a response? Is it memorable, right? And does it have meaning? Because sometimes it's beautifully crafted, we love it, yeah, but what does it mean to you? And the person is like, it's just there, right? Right. So like, and I remember I said it, like, add a story in it, make it say something, maybe a promise that it's gonna fix something, like pills fix things. So like, if you say, so what does it mean to you? And then the person, yeah, every time I see it, I know, like, whenever I have a brand, an issue with my brand, I can come to you. So that's meaning right there. So these are the 4 things to analyze logos. It's called the ARM model, ARMM: attention, response, memorability, and meaning. Any more questions?
I think you answered the world's questions, man, about branding.
Which reminds me, because I said from in the beginning, it's not just how you look. You can just use that same logic and apply it. Let's say you have a waiting room. The chairs you use are going to communicate something about you. The elevator music, the background music that you're playing, is it pop? Is it compa? Is it rabodai? Is it rap? The type of music that you play says something about your brand, and it attracts a different type of person, right? So same thing. You have employees. Do your employees dress, like very like in a very separate way, or do they have uniforms? And I'm not saying uniforms is the way to go, because the good branding, remember, good branding is what communicates your brand idea, right? So it's not, the good branding is not well designed branding. It could be well designed, but if it doesn't have meaning and if it doesn't respond to what you're trying to communicate, then it's empty. So it's the same thing. Maybe that brand, in order for it to work, the employees need to have that uniform because they want to position themselves as reliable, credible, and etc. But maybe you want to position yourself as a brand that is young, hip, and etc. And everybody can come in Chuck Taylors. So all of these things, the way you answer the phone, like the background music, the chairs, the furniture, the every restroom says boy or girl, right? But maybe you use a cleverly designed icon, right? And every time the person goes to the restroom, say like, huh, it attracts, it says something different. Like, I haven't seen that before, or this is the first time I'm looking at it in that way, etc. So it's really transversal. Branding is in everything. Branding is how did you get started? It's not just about having a business, but why did you get started? What's your brand story? What happened? Why did you forego this? Why did you go with that, etc.? So it's at every step of so it's your mission, it's your values, it's your vision for the future. Is how are you gonna see yourself in 3 years, 5 years, and etc. So it's a lot of things put together.
Awesome. Any more questions? Do we have any more questions? I know you dropped a lot on us, man.
I tried not to.
But it was good stuff. You know, I definitely watch your replays because there's always a lot of good stuff in there, man. So a lot of good gems. I think you left us full, man. You really did, as usual, though. So, Edwin, let me ask you this: you're a brand strategist, and I know that there are a lot of people that have questions and about what you are doing and how you can possibly help them. What does Brand Peel do? What do you do with Brand Peel? And how can you be of service to the people?
That's a very good question. Ron Beltra has his hand raised. Do you
Sure,
think?
sure. Oh, Ron, yeah, that's one of the greatest men in the world because his name is Ron. So great branding. Ron, go ahead and unmute yourself, Ron. Ask your question before Edwin answers mine. Ron, you have to unmute yourself. Trying to get him to unmute.
Maybe his hand was raised
Okay, well, maybe you did it by mistake.
for a different reason.
Okay, maybe Ron, if you have a question, once you unmute yourself, you can ask it, or you can type
it in the chat.
in the chat.
Yeah.
So go ahead.
So to answer your question, Brand Peel is at its core, the idea is a brand building company. And just to give you a short story, the reason why I wanted to do that is I worked in marketing for 3 years. And one of the things, even as a very young person, as a teen, I never liked the idea that imported products looked looked appealing, and local products, who I believe are a lot better. Trust me, I'm a doctor. Most of the time, because they're organic and etc., they don't capture the markets because of the way they look, and because there's no strategy at the base of their decisions, right? It's more like, well, I'm selling soap. My soap needs to be wrapped in a paper. Therefore, I'm going to I'm going to just wrap in a paper. The paper, I don't care about the color. I don't care about the name, even the names of the company. My name is Edwin. I'm just gonna call my business Edwin Production, etc. So there's no thinking behind that. And how do you compete? How do you compete with this conglomerates, with these groups who have experts and consultants who know how to leverage markets and how to be successful? So when I did Brand Peel, I was like, it's gonna be a lot deeper than just doing good design. And we do good design, but even before we do good design, we help entrepreneurs think. We help entrepreneurs strategize. We help entrepreneurs win before they get in the ring. Because the ring is the almighty, I call it the almighty shelf. When your product gets on the shelf and you're no longer there to back it up, to defend it, to pitch it, it's just the design talking on your behalf. It's just the packaging. So these decisions cannot be made out of preference. These decisions cannot be made, I'm just going to try something. If it sticks, it sticks. If it doesn't. So I really paid attention to that part. Like I learned strategy because of that reason. We really need to find a way to help Haitian products become more competitive locally first, because as you know, we have a lot of importation, a lot of imports. So locally, we need to get the products to be able to compete, and on the international scale as well, because these are products who have a lot of potential, but are not presented in the right way, right? Diamonds in the rough. So Brand Peel does that first and foremost strategy, brand strategy. And from the brand strategy stems the brand implementation. And the brand implementation is actual design. And let's design a logo for you. Let's choose a name that it's gonna conquer the market, that is not gonna be generic, and etc. Let's create that company profile. Let's create that PowerPoint deck that you can pitch to investors and etc. So the strategy, of course, I forgot to say, the strategy goes a bit deeper than just brand strategy. To be honest, I focus on business models as well. Like make sure that you have the right business model. Even if you have a business model, we can optimize it. Make sure that, you know, are we talking to the right people? Is the customer segments like the right way? Is the value proposition clearly defined? Are we probably neglecting some distribution channels? So I really, you know, let's get under the hood of the business, not before we focus on the actual car. Let's focus under the hood and see if the engine is working right, and then let's focus on so like this the brand strategy first, and then brand implementation. But in the brand implementation, what we really do is we create assets. In other words, it's not just a logo. It's a logo that is versatile. It's a logo that can be used everywhere and still gonna remain, you know, the crispness, the sharpness, we call it surgical design at Brentpill. So when we do that, we ensure that those assets are gonna live for a long time. So it's not just the logo, but it's something else. Maybe it's an illustration, maybe it's an icon, and you know, we'll talk about that later. But I recently did a set of icon for a brand, and that was a wonderful experience. So we create something that is going to be unique and proprietary, but that's also going to, you know, bring in the money. And once you have all these assets, then we have the third phase of brand management, which is brand management, which is asset management. Now we're actually managing those assets. That website, you got to update it at least once, like, you know, like once in a while, even if it's just a blog post that you make, right? You might want to revamp your PowerPoint deck, because now you're talking to a different type of customer, because you've conquered that market, that initial market, but then now we're trying to target a new market, right? Or we're trying to disrupt like something that already existed. So we need to change strategy and etc. So I would say the main thing, the main thing, what makes us Brentpill, you know, when you open the tablet, there's actually an active molecule. It's definitely strategy, and then education. Like this type of session that I just did here, I do it every week. I do it every week for entrepreneurs in Haiti, and I think we've had three or four entrepreneurs from the U.S. as well, where we learn, because a lot of business and entrepreneurship, a lot of business people, they just did it because they can, because they have that personality. They wanted more. They're go-getters, they're hustlers, so they started their business. But there's not really that scientific knowledge behind it. And I'm blessed to, my superpower is really I know how to learn things. So I was blessed to be able to learn this thing and to be able to communicate it. So we do a lot of education. So it's these two, strategy and education. And after that, we design. So we do all of that, brand strategy, brand implementation, and asset management.
Thank you, Edwin.
That was a long-winded answer, sorry.
It was, man. We do have one more question. Ron finally asked this question. I think we're still having some technical difficulties. But
Hello?
real quickly before we end, can you hear us? Uh-oh. Can you hear us now?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay. Real quick before we end, Ron's question was, would you improve a design the owner like, or do you drive it from the approach only, from your approach only?
Would I go back?
Would you improve a design, I guess, that the owner likes, or do you drive it from your approach only?
The design that the owner, like the client, the person telling me.
Yeah. So would you improve a design that the owner likes, like, I guess, who, you know, the client, or would you drive it from strictly your approach?
Yeah. Real branding agencies, one of the first things they do, I mentioned brand equity, right? Equity is equity. It's not something that you just throw away. It's really not something that you just throw away. And so the equity is relationships that people have. So if it's a brand, like so many brands are using designs that they had in the 60s and the 50s and the 30s. So it's not, you don't just throw things away, right? So the first thing is to analyze the brand equity. So I will let you, and I like those examples because last week that happened to me. Someone reached out and were like, yes, I need a new logo. I had something done before. I don't want to send it to you because it might influence you. No, send it to me, because the more data we have, the more information we have, then the more we get to know your business, what you like, what worked before and what didn't work, etc. So it's not a artistic, and I really want to put emphasis on that. Design is not really art. It's applied art. It's art for the purpose of like, in like graphic design is more like for the purpose of commercialism. So we have goals that we want to attend, and then that's the beauty of strategy. We have goals and we need to figure out how we're going to get it there. So I would first analyze what you have, like pick it apart. Like, yes, that's very valuable, let's keep that. No, I don't think this matches the positioning that we want to communicate at all, etc. So I would go back to all these things that I said, like the who's the customer segments, who are we trying to attract. Let's say you like something and it's super masculine, but the customer segment that you're trying to attract is women. I have to tell you that we're not going to use that. So, but at the end of the day, when we create something, it's never we in our room we create it, and then 3 months later we pop back like surprise, and then we tell the customer. No, we do things together. The strategic sessions, no one can know your business better than you. So I need to talk to you. We need to sit down and like get these things together, figuring out what has worked before for you. What do you notice? Who buys more from you? So you're going to answer those questions. So is it the same thing for the logo? Why do you like it? What results has it gotten to you, et cetera, et cetera. And then together we come with decisions. I never fight with my clients. Like, that doesn't exist. Like, and of course, traditionally there's this fight between designers and clients, but it's just for fun. Like, right. But in reality, the designer and the client are on the same team, and we're trying to create something, especially Brand Pill. Brand Pill is focused on results, and the result is not just a good logo. It's, did you make more money this year because of that logo? So we're really result oriented. So definitely we come together to create a something.
Awesome. Thank you, Dr. Magloire. All right, so we're coming to a close. It's been a good 1.5 hours full of knowledge, and I don't want them to give. I don't want you to give everything away right now, man, because
How many more?
maybe another. We're gonna have to. We have to bring you back all the time, man. So, how can the people get in touch with you, man, or Brand Pill?
We have a website, www.brandpill.net, brandpill.net. So you just type that, and there's a contact form. If you scroll down, yeah, first you're gonna see our work, and then yes, that's exactly it. And then you scroll down, you see the work, what we do. We try to understand how we do it, and then at the end there's a form, a contact form. You can just send us an email right there. Like, just, you don't have to give a lot of details. It could be just, hey, would like to touch base for a free consultation. I have want you. So it's regardless. So just write the email, and then that's one way. The other way is to get in touch with me personally. Because this is 2022 after all. So my personal phone number is 32 88 52 51. And I'm always available to give feedback, especially on bad design. That's one of my favorite sports. So please send me your bad design so that I can pick them apart.
That was 32 88 52 51.
Yes. And don't forget to put 509.
509. For those who weren't familiar.
Haiti.
All right. Last question. What would you recommend everybody walk away? Well, what do you want everybody to walk away with before we depart? When they're thinking about their brand, what do you want them to walk away with or take back with them and think about tonight or tomorrow, this weekend, when it comes to their brand?
You can start branding now, and you actually have been doing it for a longer than you thought. It's not, as I tried my best to explain, it's not something that is only for certain type of people or certain big companies, etc. everything is branding. The way you talk, the songs you sing, the way you dress. Oh, and speaking of personal branding, I know someone who only wears red. There's always a red component, either a skirt or pant or a scarf. She only wears red, and that's part of her personal branding. When you see that person, you know, yep. So it's something that helps people remember you. It's something that helps people remember that I had a positive interaction with that person and I want more of it. And that's the gist of branding. It doesn't have to cost a thing.
Love it. Thank you again, Edwin. Again, you all can reach Dr. Magloire, and he's getting busier by the month, so I'm not sure how he's saying he's free whenever, but hey, if he says he is, call him before that's not true anymore. Bramhill.net, 509-3288-5251. That's how you can get in touch with Edwin. And of course, those of you who don't follow the chamber, make sure you do that. Go to our website at gahcci.org. Follow us on Facebook at GAHCCI or Instagram at Haitian Commerce. We're also on LinkedIn and Twitter as well. And if you have not become a member, please do so. I think that Dr. Magloire gives special rates for members, maybe, or something special.
I do.
Right. All right. So if you have not become a member of the chamber yet, make sure you take an opportunity to do that. You don't have to be in Georgia to do that, but you will. Membership does have its privileges, and that includes saving a lot of money on services like branding. When it comes to copywriting, we have several different discounts that we have from our members and different businesses that are part of the chamber. So thank you again for coming to this webinar. You're welcome. You're welcome. Everybody's saying they learned a lot, man. We have to bring you back. Show them some love. Go to Edwin's page and how do they follow you on social media, man?
Edwin Magloire. They can like at and then EB Magloire. So
All
let
right.
me write that in the
Yeah,
chat
write
as
it in there. Show Edwin some love. Go to his social media page, blow him up, tell him thank you. He's always giving as far as information. So definitely take advantage of the information that he's providing and being in touch with him. Again, follow the chamber. We look forward to having you at some of the next informational and learning and educational sessions that we will have. Edwin will be part of them again, so continue following us. I'm forcing him to do that. So thank you all again, and we will see you next time. Good evening, good night, or good morning to wherever you are in the part of the world.
Thank you all for coming. And
Thank
thanks
you
for all
all.
the questions, the interactions. That was
Oh,
beautiful.
after party, after I end the Facebook live.
I know. I'm taking my
All right.
time.
So I just have to figure out how to do that. All right.